Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be teaching you guys how to create and optimize EV spreads. So, when we give out our teams to people and they use them, I always get comments every now and then like, "Oh my God, Clover, this spread is so good. This Pokemon was able to live from this attack with with 1 HP or 2 HP, and then I was able to get an attack off, and then I just won the game afterwards." Right? I can't tell you how many times I've gotten comments like that. And, it's all because that kind of damage is accounted for when I create these EV spreads. Now, how am I able to do that? So, just creating and optimizing EV spreads, it's one of the harder aspects to learn and master in terms of team building when you're first learning how to play the game and when you're a beginner, right? But if you understand the process and if you have a formula that you can follow, then eventually you get good at it, and then you're able to just create them on your own, and it becomes like second nature, right? So, I've actually made a video like this about a year ago, and I also made it towards the latter part of Sword and Shield. But we get thousands of new viewers in between those cycles, right? And just like now, like from now until like the last time I did this, I think the last time I did this, I had like 2,000 subscribers. Now we have like over 7,000. So, I think it's time that we make an updated video on this just so that we can educate the new viewers that we've gotten just how exactly I'm able to do this. But if you've watched my team building videos, you kind of get the sense of how I'm able to do this. But the difference now is that I'm going to give you the formula that I've been using and also the template. So this way you can follow it as well. So this way you can practice creating these EV spreads the way I've been able to do them. All right. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right to it. And let's show you the template. And then we'll go through a few examples of how to use the template and create these EV spreads. All right, we're back on Google Slides, and this is the template that I've been able to use. It's based on 4 rules, and we'll go through each rule in a little bit more detail after I introduce them. So basically, we have number 1 in choosing a speed tier, okay? Then after you've picked your speed tier and invested that many EVs, then we go into your attack or special attack stat, if you're a sweeper, right? Otherwise, we start with number 3 if you're more of a support Pokemon, which means you're going to add points into your bulk stats, which means your HP, defense, and special defense. Now, again, if you started with a sweeper, this is what you do after you invested into your attack and special attack stat. But if you're a support Pokemon, you do this first, and then after you've invested into the bulk that you want, then you can start dumping remaining points into your attacking stat, because you're not really an attacker, right? You're meant to be a support option. And then finally, we go into number 4, where we readjust your EV spreads after you've done some testing, to account for certain damage calcs, whether they be an offensive calc or a defensive calc. Now, that being said, if you're already like relatively good at this, you can already just do number 4, right? Even before you're testing, because you have an idea of what the meta is like already, and you already know what you want to survive or at least want to OHKO. So you can just go straight into number 4. But if you're still learning the game, you don't know what you want to account for in terms of a damage calc. So you have to play the game a little bit just to see what you need to, adjust. But if you are already experienced, then you can already just do number 4 straight off the bat. All right. But what does number 1 entail? So if we go into the next slide here, so what that means in choosing a speed tier, that means you pick a common meta threat that you want to outspeed by 1 point. So this way you get to go first, right? I always like to tell people during our one-on-one coaching sessions that, you could do 1,000,000 damage in the world, right? But it doesn't mean anything if you don't get to go first and just get KO'd right off the bat, right? So I always say, go first and then worry about your damage, right? Because you do 0 damage when you're dead. All right, that's the slogan I like to say. You do 0 damage when you're dead. All right. Now, that being said, like, what if your Pokemon is just a naturally slower Pokemon in general, and you can't outspeed the threat, whether you go max speed investment, right? So then what you have to do is, if you account for your speed control on your team, whether it be Tailwind and Icy Wind, or maybe after a Dragon Dance, for example, then account for that and include that into the multiplier, and then account for that speed tier that will allow you to outspeed that threat. All right. So we'll show you how that works when we actually build a Pokemon's EV spread in the future example, but that's what you have to do in terms of choosing a speed tier. All right. After that, then you go into step number 2. And if you're a sweeper, like I said, this is what you do next. If you're a support Pokemon, you can skip this stat and then go into number 3, which is investing into your bulk stats. But if you're a sweeper, then what you want to do is basically hit your bumps first, at least as a general guideline, or you can simply just go max 252, 252. Just one of them is 252, of course, right? Or if you're like super bulky, you can just hit your bumps in your investment. So, you know, again, I've spoken about EV bumps in a lot of our videos, right? And I've always asked you guys to comment in the video if you don't know what they are, right? But the general consensus is after you've chosen your nature, whether it be adamant or modest or, you know, either of the two, then what you can do is after the first bump, when you find it, you invest another 80 EVs to go into the next one or the third one, right? So for example, if you've reached the first bump at 76 investment, then the next one's going to be at 156 and then 236, right? So every 80 EVs invested, you'll hit the bump in that stat. And remember, the bump means you're increasing your stat by 2 points rather than 1 when you move the slider on Pokemon Showdown. All right. So after that, once you've invested into your special attack or attack stat, then you can go into your bulk stat. So this is where you just dump your leftovers, all right, into HP, defense, and SpDef. Well, how do I know which one I dump in first? Like, do I do HP first? Do I do defense first? Do I do SpDef first? So you always want to kind of do your HP before you do your defense and SpDef. So when you do your HP, there's a few things you can account for to optimize that number. So you can go for, you know, some of these even numbers for your berry recovery, whether you're holding like a citrus or a pinch berry. You can go for a factor of 16 to account for leftovers if you're holding that item, or grassy terrain if there's a Rillaboom on your team. So some of these benchmark numbers are like, you know, 176, 208, 224, and so on, because you're getting a nice solid whole number recovery when you hit these benchmarks. Because if you don't hit these, then it's not the end of the world, of course, but then you're just going to be getting decimal numbers in terms of recovery. But then decimals always round down in competitive Pokemon, right? If you're holding a life orb, you always want to end in a 9, right? Because if you end with these solid whole numbers like 180, 190, 200 divided by 10, you know, you're going to hit, you know, getting life orb chip like 18, 19, 20 HP. But if you end in like 189, 199, 209, right? 189 divided by 10 is 18.9, which rounds down to 18, right? So you're undercutting the threshold value for life orb, right? For as an example. Then if, you know, Tyranitar is rising a little bit in usage, so you can always account for sand chip damage, which is actually the opposite of grassy terrain leftovers recovery. So instead of 176, 208, and 224, and so on, you undercut that by 1 and look for 175, 207, 223, because divided by 16, it'll be like, you know, 10.9 something, 11.9 something, 12.9 something, which rounds down to 12. So you're taking 1 less HP of sand chip return, right? So this is what we mean by optimizing that HP stat, just accounting for these things if you have them on your team. And then after that, then you can just start dumping the rest into your defense and special defense, right? So what I like to do as a starting point, the higher of the two, you know, you're just going to put 1 point in there, like the 4, all right? And then whatever's left, you put it into the lower bulk, right? And that's just a good starting point, right? You know, you don't always have to do this, right? Especially when you're fixing your damage calculator on, but at the very least, it gives you a good starting spread. So that's where you can just jump right into Showdown and start playing the game, right? Then let's say you start playing the game and then you realize, oh, I'm dying to this thing and I need to adjust my spread, or I'm just barely missing out the KO on this Pokemon, so I need to invest a little bit more into my attack / special attack stat. Then you do that, right? So then you go into your spreads and you start, you know, overriding your optimization rules, right? And you say, you know what, I don't need so much HP. I can take some of that off and increase my defense or special defense a little bit. So this way I can, you know, survive the damage calc that I need to survive, or, you know, take a little bit off the HP or defense or whatever, and then max out a little bit more your offensive stat. So this way you can pick up the KO that you need to pick up. All right. But that's it. That's the formula that I've been following, right? And you've seen me do this in all my team building videos. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back into Showdown. We're gonna go through a couple of examples of me following this template and EVing Pokemon the way I showed you here on the screen. So we use Flutter Mane as our first example here, and I always get this question, why can't we just go 252, 252 Flutter Mane Clover? Like, what is the reasoning that we can't do this? You can do this if you have a Focus Sash, but look at this bulk, HP 55, defense 55 base. This is not good, and if I were to pair this side by side on the damage calculator next to something like Chien-Pao, which is again a common meta threat, look at this. Sucker Punch is always an OHKO, right? If I'm an adamant nature, which a lot of them are. So it's almost like you don't have a Flutter Mane because you're always being pinned by this Sucker Punch. So in that sense, it's like, well, what is the point of even having a Flutter Mane in the first place? So now what you can do is say, okay, I'm going to invest in my bulk. So this way I can get this number down to 99%, or at least a 6.3% chance roll. So this way I can live an attack from this Chien-Pao and then get off my special attack and go for that KO. All right, so we'll erase everything here. All right, and the first thing we're going to do is go for our speed stat, right? Which is what we said in the template. So what we're going to do is pick a meta threat that we want to outspeed. And basically the threat to Flutter Mane is actually, besides Chien-Pao, another Flutter Mane itself. Because, again, Ghost is weak against Ghost. So that being said, what number can outspeed some of these Flutter Manes? Well, a lot of them are modest, right? So let's assume that we're going against the harder hitting Flutter Mane, the modest nature one, right? So they cap at 187 speed, right? So I want to be able to outspeed this 187, right? So what number outspeeds 187? 188, right? At bare minimum. So what I'm going to do is go timid nature, drop this speed down to about 188 like this. And now if you look at this, look, I've got 384 EVs left remaining. So I have a lot more EVs left to play with where I can invest in my bulk, my special attack stat. Either way, I've already achieved step number one. I'm saying I'm going to outspeed every single modest Flutter Mane there is out there. All right, so that's good. So now where can I go here? So what you can easily just do this, right? Where I can just invest all in my special attack stat like this, 1 point in special defense, and say, look, I've got 124 HP EVs left over here, so I can just do this, right? And this is a decent starting point, but then you realize, okay, hold up. If I have 124 HP and if I've got 4 defense, all right, that's still not good enough, right? The Sucker Punch and everything else is down in terms of damage, right? I still have a chance to live, but 37.5% chance to OHKO is still not good enough, right? So what I'm going to end up doing is saying, okay, look, let's take away the special attack stat, right? We'll invest in that later, and let's instead go for our, defensive stat, right? So this way I can potentially live this Sucker Punch idea. So we'll keep it at 124 for now, all right? So now let's start increasing our defense. Let's do this. All right, let's see until we can get this. So look, we've already achieved the Sucker Punch damage calc, right? So that's good. So now let's keep going. Let's try and get these ice moves, right? So until we can get this down to about 99. All right, so we've got the Ice Spinner down already. Now let's go for the Icicle Crash. All right, and this is already good enough. So 124, 88, right? So now we have the defensive calc that we need, and now we have everything left here in special attack stat, right? And even before this, I just wanted to make note that, again, what you also want to do is just do the items first, and then the move sets, right? And then what you want to do is just go for your EV spreads, right? Because often your EV spreads are dictated by your move sets and items. So in this case, I'm going with the Icy Wind as my speed control, right? So when I do my speed tier calcs for my other Pokemon, I'm going to factor in this 1.5 factor from the Icy Wind, right? Because that's what Icy Wind does. It drops the stage by 1, which means you're dividing against the opponent by 1.5, all right? But this is it, right? So what ended up happening was our special attack stat was our leftover stat, right? And you might say, is this good enough? Well, yes, because 1, I outspeed the modest Flutter Mane. 2, I survive the Chien-Pao damage, right? And then 3, even though I don't have as much special attack stat, I still have the choice specs to compensate for my lack of EV investment in my special attack, right? And that's it. This is now the optimal EV spread because now we achieve what we wanted in terms of our speed tier, our damage calc, and just overall optimization in terms of what we have here available for the Flutter Mane. All right, so that's example number 1. Let's do a couple more, and again, we're still sticking with the template. All right, we'll use Ogerpon Wellspring as another example. So again, with Ogerpon Wellspring, look at the stats. Like, it's pretty decent bulk, right? Especially in special defense when you terrestrialize it, when you get that 1.5 boost. So that's going to be good. Now the question is, how do I want to play this Ogerpon? Again, it's going to be a very bulky set. Like, it's going to be Ivy, Cudgel, Horn Leech, Follow Me, and Spiky Shield. These are the standard move sets. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, you know, redirect attacks and protect my Flutter Mane. So that being said, I will be going for a very bulky set. Now that being said, I still need to pick my speed tier, right? Step number 1. So I've got Icy Wind on my side, which means I want to factor that in terms of outspeeding some of these meta threats. So if I wanted to outspeed, for example, another Flutter Mane or another Chien-Pao that was Jolly, right, they're going to hit 205, right? So if I do 205 divided by 1.5, right, after the Icy Wind, that's going to come out to 136.6667. So that means I need to hit 137 to outspeed those Jolly / Timid Flutters and Chien-Paos after an Icy Wind boost, okay? So I've got that. Now what we can do is start going for our attack stat. All right, let's say we'll go for 76, right? Here's the first EV bump here, right? 76 adamants. Then the next one is another 80 EVs. And again, this only is true in your natured stat. So then here we go 156, which is okay. That's not too bad. Then we just have 300 EVs left remaining. So now what I want to do is I want to pick a defensive calc, right? And the one that I'm going to choose is oops, that's the wrong one. How about here? Dragonite with the Sword of Ruin, Extreme Speed, Choice Banded, Adamant 252, right? Because Extreme Speed absolutely just annihilates me. So after I go, let's say 252 HP, is that enough to survive? Let's see. All right, it is not. Extreme Speed is still one-shotting me, right? Well, I don't have a whole lot left, so I still have 44 defense, right? After I put 1 point in special defense. So is 44 defense enough? And it is still not enough, which means even after max HP, I still need more defense to survive this Dragonite attack. So let's drop this to the first benchmark, right? Let's take off 80 EVs. Let's drop it to 76 animate. And now I've got 80 EVs left to play with. So now let's try this. And let's see if 124 is enough, okay? And it is, and it's actually a little bit overkill. So what I'm gonna do is actually drop this a little bit, all right? And get it to that 99 point, right? That's pretty good. And now I survived the Dragonite, and now I have, is that 108? Yep, now I have 16 EVs left here to play with. I can put this in special defense like this. Now, that being said, I still want this to be a nice even number just to optimize the boost I'm going to be getting from the terrestrialization, right? So I still want this to be an even number. So can I make an adjustment here where I can do that? So let's see. If I drop this HP, will this matter? Okay, I can still get the 6.3% chance roll, so that's not too bad. Okay. Right, and I noticed that if I drop defense even more, I still have this 98, this 99 rule, right? So I'm gonna take off 1 point there. All right, now I have what I need, right? So here we go, 28 SPDEF will get me that nice even number, and I still have the damage calc that I need to survive the Dragonite Extreme Speed, right? So again, what does this do? I outspeed the Timid / Jolly Chien-Paos and Flutter Manes after an Icy Wind. I have the defensive bulk to survive Dragonite Extreme Speed, all right, boosted by Chien-Pao, Adamant Choice Band, and I optimize my attack, I optimize my special defense to get a nice even number so I get the best bang for my buck with the terrestrialization boost, and then I hit the bump in the Adamant Nature with 76 investment, right? This is a relatively bulky Ogerpon. Right now, if other Ogerpons are going for this kind of set and you want to outspeed them, you can do that. You just have to make a little bit of a sacrifice here, right? And you just say, okay, I'm gonna put this to about 18, all right, and let's go 138 or even like 139 just for speed creeping purposes, right? So I have a tiny bit of SPDEF less, but I still have this even number, right? And then now what I'm able to do is outspeed other Ogerpons that are going for the same kind of speed too. All right, so that's what we call speed creeping. All right, so that was example number 2. And again, you saw how I went for my bulk this time and left for the Adamant a little bit later in terms of the attack set. All right, but either way, the way we did the Flutter Mane and the Ogerpon, we're still following the same template. Let's look at one more example. All right, we'll do Raging Bolt here as our last example. So basically, again, the first thing I'm going to do is put in the movesets and items. So I'm going to do like a little combine set here. So that's the way I decided to play Raging Bolt at the time. Thunderclap, Dragon Pulse, and then let's say a combine set and Protect. This is a very common, set that people like to use. And then from here, even just straight up booster energy or even like leftovers is also pretty good. Actually, you know what? Let's just do leftovers. Let's just do leftovers for the sake of this. So this way we can show the HP optimization idea. So basically, again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a speed tier. So one thing that really threatens Raging Bolt is Landorus Incarnate, right? So Landorus, if it's a max speed timid Landorus, will hit 168, right? And what number outspeeds that? 169. Now, Raging Bolt can't hit that, right? No matter what, but what I can do is factor in the Icy Wind from the Flutter Mane. So let's say I hit that with an Icy Wind, all right? So then what is 169 divided by 1.5? If you do some quick math in your calculator, it's 112.6667. So that means I need 113 speed investment on this Raging Bolt, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. Now, a lot of Raging Bolts are normally like a little bit slower and they don't have this much speed investment, but this is also gonna be good against the mirror matchup because you're just going to be flat out faster than them, right? So we got our speed stat. We're going to be going Modest Nature. So all the bumps are going to be here. And really, I just want to say, let's go. Here's the first one, right? 174, 176. So 20 investment. This is not bad right now, but let's go another 80. Let's at least get this to 100, right? So 100 gets you to 187, right? So 185, 187, you skip 2 points there. So this is the second benchmark. Again, another 80 EVs. But you realize that, wait a minute, Calm Mind is going to give me +1 in special attack and SPDF. Now, both of these are odd numbers, right? 187 and 109. So I'm just going to make this even like this with the 110. And then the 188, 187, I'm going to make it 108 just so that I can get that nice, solid, even number optimization for the Calm Mind stuff, right? Then I just have bulk, all right? So again, I went slightly out of order. This is my sweeper. No, actually I stayed within it. But either way, I still have 256 EVs left to play with. What can I do here? All right, so I know I have leftovers recovery, right? So I can either go to 208 like this and then just dump the rest into defense like this. I can simply end it like that. Or what I can do is do a little bit more HP, bring it to the next threshold, go to 224, right? And then just dump the rest into defense like this, right? So this way, again, I'm going for that 116 factor. So is this enough? I can leave it like this, right? I can just say, all right, Raging Bolt, you're ready to go. We outspeed Timid Landorus after an Icy Wind. We've optimized our special attack and SPDF after Calm Mind. And now I also optimized my HP with leftovers, and then the rest was just remaining EVs, and I just dumped that into defense, right? So that's good. But, can I survive stuff like, let's say, Chien-Pao, Ice Spinner, or Icicle Crash? So let's take a look here. I've already lined it up with Adamant Chien-Pao. Is 188, 168 enough to do the job? Let's see, 188 and 68. Is this enough for that? All right, so we actually have the Ice Spinner calc, down to 6.3, which is actually really good. The Icicle Crash is still, 43%, not so great. Now, you can say, look, Ice Spinner is much more common now on Chien-Pao than Icicle Crash just because there's so much more, side spam and we want to blow up terrain. So you could say, you know what, that's good enough for me. Or you can say, no, I'm still factoring the Icicle Crash and I really want to, factor that in terms of my damage. All right, so then you might say, all right, I can sacrifice my HP a little bit or I can sacrifice my special attack. And either way, I can still try and get this damage calc to where it needs to be. So what if I did this? What if I took this down to 208, right? And then I just increased my defense by that much, 60 to 196, right? Is that going to do the job? Can I get a little bit more bang for my buck in terms of my defensive stat? And I do, right? So not only is the Ice Spinner calc down even more, but now the Icicle Crash is down to 12.5%. And you might say, okay, that's good enough for me, right? So, a little bit less HP, but 208 is still very good. I still have the optimal number for leftovers, and now I have a lot more defensive bulk, and now I have this very solid Icicle Crash roll for what I want to do. Now, if you don't want to do that, if you want to say, you know what, I'm fine with, you know, sacrificing my special attack damage. I don't mind that. So you might say, look, I'll just bring this down to 20, all right? Not as much damage as before, but look, I'm going to be going for Calm Minds anyway. And, you know, I'm going to be having a lot more special attack than I'm already going to be starting with, just because I have this option for Calm Mind. Then you might say, look, can I do this? Can I just go 188, 156? Is that enough, right? So let's take a look at that. 156. All right, now I do have enough, everything. And I've actually overshot it because, you know, I'm at 97. So can I just, wait, 156. All right, oh no, never mind. I do have it. All right, so now 188, 156 is enough for that. So now you can just say, all right, I'm selling for this. I've got everything. I've got the speed that I want. I've got the bulk that I want. And I've optimized my leftovers with my HP. And I still have this benchmark for a special attack, right? You know, for the Calm Mind even number shenanigans. So you can do it like that. You see how I messed around with the numbers, but still stayed within my goals, right? And it just depends on what you want to do as a player. Do you want a little bit more attack, but a little bit less bulk? Or do you want to have even more bulk, but just be a little bit less damage dealing, just for the sake of the fact that you have Calm Mind, all right? It just really depends on you as a player, but you can still hit these benchmarks depending on how you want to play your Pokemon, all right? But that's it. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of a sense of how we've been able to do this. So once again, I'll put the template here on the screen. And again, the whole point is choosing that speed tier, investing into that attack stat that you have or special attack stat, you know, hitting those benchmarks, those bumps, and then whatever's left, add into your bulk stats and then adjust them for your defensive calc or even offensive one. I didn't do offensive one in this video, I just realized, but that's okay. You can still more or less do the same thing in the damage calc. You know, just make sure that the lowest number is 100%. So this way, at minimum worst damage, you're dealing 100%, which means you're always going to pick up that KO no matter what, right? So if this is something you're interested in and you need help practicing and trying to build your team with in terms of creating these EV spreads, again, we have coaching available on the channel. Book a one-on-one session with me, a one-on-one Discord call, you know, with that tier 3 sub. And then we'll get you that team that you need to be able to compete, or just something that you need for ladder play, or, you know, global challenges coming up if you need help with your EVs for that. Sign up, click the link in our video description or in the pinned comment is the same link. Sign up with that tier 3 sub, and then you can message me on Discord, or you can join our Discord, and then we'll create optimal EV spreads for your Pokemon using this template that we showed you on the screen. All right, but that's going to do it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.